Okay, sorry about that. So, my name is Allie. I'll be hosting A Dream of Diving from now on. If you saw the podcast, it was about a year ago, called Women in Diving. We had a bunch of really cool guests there, and so I guest hosted there. So, the plan is to take it over and see how it goes. So, today we are going to be talking about preventing the boat ban. Things to do, things definitely not to do on the boat. So we've got a variety of people here today. So I'm going to bring them in one at a time. We've got last screen is black, but he's here. Can you hear us, Pat?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, wait 1 second. Alrighty, that should be better.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
I don't know why it's black though.
I am not sure. But we'll figure that out in a minute. Pat is a crew worker on the Independence 2. If you want to talk about yourself a little bit, maybe how long you've been doing that, what you do on the boat.
Yes, I've been crewing for the Independence for, this is the third season, I think. Started out as a customer and then got asked to crew. Basically, we just help customers in the morning load the boat. When we get out to the wreck, one of us will get in and tie in. Others will help the customers into the water. End of the dive, we get the customers out of the water, untie, drive the boat back in, and then clean it at the end of the day.
Nice. Cool. And you said that's 3 seasons you've been doing that?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. So our next guest is actually here in person. So we've got Kyle. He has been a participant on many boat charters, diving charters. So he's going to share a little bit about his experience as well, especially out in California with a lot of the boat diving he's been doing.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kyle. As Allie said, not working experience, but I've been on a variety of different boats, both international travel, local here in the Northeast, and then quite a few in California as well.
And our last person just joined. So this is Dana. Dana Hunt works up in St. Lawrence, and he can introduce himself a little bit about what he does. Maybe. Dana, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Alrighty. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do up on the St. Lawrence?
I'm on a dive charter. Been doing it now for probably about 6-7 years. Been on it my whole life. As I grew up, my grandfather started the charter well before I was around, actually. And then, so as a kid, I went out on the boat with the divers during the day, and I got to hang out with divers well before I was diving. I remember being sunburnt very badly when I was a kid, snorkeling all day in the boat, lobster, red stuff, and kind of grew up doing that. And when it was my turn to step in and do something that was where I wanted to be, that was easy for me to, step into.
There he is. Cool. Thank you for that. Also, really quick, before I forget, I don't know if anybody else is drinking today, but I have, Kubakan from our friends down in Jersey, Kevin and Ed from South Jersey Scuba. So that's what I've got tonight. Anybody else?
No. I literally just got out of work. No speed limits were broken.
I'm sure they weren't. Never. We have a second Pat.
Yeah, I just swapped computers and now it's working. Sorry.
Better?
That worked.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So we've got definitely a wide variety of views and experiences of boat diving. So like I said, and Dana explained, he's a captain up on one of the boats in St. Lawrence. Pat works on a boat, and Kyle's got a lot of experience diving out in California and in other places as well on charters. So first question that I have that is kind of also a personal, like I also have this question. In your opinion, what is the like least obnoxious way to get all of your gear onto the boat? Do you guys prefer like bags, milk crates, not a lot of stuff? Do people bring obnoxious amounts of gear on that you just trip over constantly?
I'll go. Yeah, like the hockey bag thing is cumbersome.
Yeah.
It's not really as obnoxious, but it's cumbersome and it requires a lot of room. And sometimes, depending on the group, if 6 people on a 6-pack have a hockey bag, that's a lot of room. So milk crates, double milk crates, or something of that sort. Sometimes even Tupperware containers are a little tall to fit in the spaces. Not Tupperware, but the Rubbermaid things. They're a little tall to fit in the spaces.
Mm-hmm. What
other
about
than
you,
that-
Pat?
Yeah, we're pretty standard with everyone brings a milk crate and then usually a dry suit bag. And we've been pretty lucky. I haven't really encountered anything too obnoxious.
Yeah. Kyle, what do you usually use?
Oh, milk crates all the way. So in California, I took my gear back and forth from dive sites a lot of different ways, but I had a collapsible milk crate that was literally just for the boat. That was the only time I used it. Versus out here, actually, that's kind of how I store my gear now. But I think milk crates are the way to go. They're sturdy, they're light, and they hold just about everything if you do it right. If it doesn't fit in the milk crate, maybe you brought too much.
Maybe I brought too much every single time. Yeah, I know for sure. I also use a milk crate. I know before like the Indy 2 dive that I did and before the charters I've done with Dana, I'm like cramming things into my milk crate, like desperately praying that everything fits. So this is another just like quick question, and it might be different depending on like where you are geographically or just depending on what type of like charter you're running or charter you're on. But is it expected that you guys have or that the diver has a dive buddy already before coming onto the boat? Or do you get people that just like come onto the boat and they're like, hey, I'm here to dive. I don't really know anybody.
I get the InstaBuddy stuff once in a while. It's kind of not really screen the walk-ons, but I try to interview them on the phone or in person quickly and find out who they'd be a good match if they have a, kind of an odd man out scenario. Figure out who they can pair up best with. It's great if they have a buddy they're familiar with. That always benefits the experience, I would say. But it's very, very likely that they can InstaBuddy up and still have a great time. And as long as we're doing dives equivalent to their skill level.
Definitely. What about you, Pat?
Yeah, depends on experience. We'll get some people that just prefer to dive alone, and we will get people that they come on without a buddy and they just don't really know what to do. Well, usually the people we have are pretty good about buddying up with them, and especially if they have experience in the area, or we'll even send crew in with them, which I don't mind extra diving. So if we have someone that's been on the boat for the first time or doesn't know it, one of us will jump in and kind of show them what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been fortunate out in California how they usually do it because the boats that I typically go on, they fit quite a few people. I think one even holds up to like 32 divers. And how they typically run it out there is one or two shops, usually at least two shops will kind of like have half the boat and the other shop has the other half. And usually they coordinate through the shop. So when you book it through the shop, they'll kind of coordinate with you. And then each one will actually have a representative on the boat for each shop. And I don't know if they just do it because it's easier that way or if that was like a requirement from the captain or not. But usually, like I said, it's pretty organized through the shop. And then they kind of run their people on the boat as well as far as buddies and things like that.
Yeah. If someone doesn't have a buddy, are you guys expecting like prior notice?
I never take one person out on the boat. So there's always that scenario where they'll have somebody they can dive with. That's my only real requirement as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty adaptable. I mean, we deal with surprises, so it's not expected, but we like them to have a buddy.
Yeah. Cool. So kind of along the same line with like prior notice and things like that, when it comes to a diver needing like extra accommodations, maybe they need help getting back on the boat or they need help getting their gear on or something like that. What do you expect from people? Do you expect to be notified ahead of time? Are you guys expecting like an extra tip? Are you expecting a buddy that's going to do that for them? Or have you experienced anything like that?
I haven't directly experienced anything that is really out of the ordinary. I mean, most of the stuff, the buddy system works great when buddies help each other get ready and they've dived before together. They know what to help each other with and that kind of stuff. But I help everybody on the boat get their stuff ready without even asking. You know, it's just part of like getting people ready and getting in the boat and getting the motion going to get in the water. Sometimes people didn't know that they would normally get help doing something like lifting setups up, doubles up on the, on the boat. I'm happy to do that for people and make their experience better and more stress free. So, getting back on the boat, that's probably more boat dependent. I mean, if you have a ladder system that facilitates that, it's definitely a good thing. I kind of have a backup plan. If somebody's disabled, I just drop the ramp and scoop them up like a potato.
I like the potato scoop method.
Yeah.
That
I
sounds
could say
good.
bag, but
I think I'll opt for the potato scoop method next time, if that's good with you. I can never get my fins up the ramp or the ladder anyway, so scoop me like a potato and we'll be good.
So hold on. So it's not just me that has trouble getting up on Dana's boat.
No, I can never get my fins on that last stupid step.
Yeah.
I was gonna say your ladder kind of
it's an
sucks.
expensive step, guys.
I appreciate the step. I'm just sorry that you have to help me with that last step every single time. What about you, Pat? Have you seen anything like that? What kind of accommodations have you seen that you need to make or don't need to make that maybe you...
I feel like Jersey has like the kind of mantra of like, don't touch me, don't help me. So we kind of stay off unless people ask for help.
Okay.
But like, as part of our briefing, we'll say if you need something, just tell us and we'll do it.
Right.
And to what Dana said, if we see someone having a problem, we'll jump in and usually we catch it before they even realize it's a problem. We also, to that end, ask that if you see us helping you, let us help you. Don't try and fight it. I mean, I'm guilty of that when I'm a customer.
Yeah, that's fair. Kyle?
No expectations. Otherwise, just let us know what you need. Definitely.
Yeah. Communication is big.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely confirm what Dana said. I've been out on his boat. And, like you said, before I'm even grabbing anything, he's helped me get my gear on and stuff like that. For me, that's really appreciated, especially everyone who's getting that second arm in your BCD. And then in my experience for like the California boats, like I said, they usually have a lot more people, and that's typically because it's more recreational diving. So because of that, almost everyone's on a single back mount tank, and everyone's squeezed in so tight. And again, because they kind of split it up between the shops, one of the things that's helpful is the boat has their whole entire crew, and usually their dive masters in the back of the boat helping people get in. But as that's going on, in my experience anyway, usually the shop has, again, their representatives are usually the last ones in the water because they're helping people get ready also.
Yeah. So on a different note, this is something that I've heard about a lot. What is the scoop with bringing different like dive configurations onto a charter? I know
just say it, side mount.
Side mount is not always desired. Can you guys speak to that a little bit? Do you have any stories about maybe why side mount is not preferred, or maybe why you can kind of debunk that myth, like side mount is okay on a dive charter, anything like that you've seen?
the side mount, I saw a lot of side mount stuff, and I don't think all of the side mount divers that would come on charters ready to dive side mount were as proficient as in the beginning when I started seeing it as they would like to have been. So it was a struggle. They didn't know how they were maybe rerouting some of their equipment a second or third time on the boat and stuff like that. Other than that, getting dressed on the boat and side mount or geared up is not much different. I think it's kind of whatever the person feels like they should be doing, but I don't have any particular issues with the side mount directly. But a lot of people, they have a lot of different gear configurations they dive normally, and I get to see that. So many people are good at all of them, I guess.
Yeah. Are there any other like configurations that you found are more cumbersome or like less cumbersome on the boat? Even just
no, it's more up to the person how comfortable they are in it, and that's the biggest thing is if they know how to move in it, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so with that, I think it's important that whoever's booking that boat needs to communicate because, like I said, in California, it was rare to see a set of doubles, whether it was side mount or back mount.
Yeah,
my dog
hasn't seen that after work yet. So,
jelly bean.
but yeah, so it was actually rare, and then the boats that I would frequent out in California also had compressors on board, so you actually only needed to bring one tank, and we typically do about 3 dives a day, and they would fill in between in dives. But so it was kind of rare to see doubles. But the other hand with that, like I said, 32 people packed in. I think doubles are difficult to fit because they have the tank mounts at each spot. At least most of the boats I've been on. So I think the biggest thing is communicate with the crew ahead of time.
Fair. What about you, Pat? What have you noticed?
I think it really comes down to the person. I mean, there's people that can come in and get dressed quick and side mount, take up very little space, and it's really not a big deal or any different than other setups. You said communication, letting us know what you need, and really we're just looking for you to get in the water at a reasonable pace and not block other people, not take up space. Yeah, and the other thing is just like listen to the crew. I mean, we won't tell you it's wrong, but we'll give you recommendations. As far as configuration, we had a group of Florida last summer, and they were all diving rebreathers with stage bottles, and all the stage bottles had really small clips on them that were really hard to get them off coming out of the water because they weren't used to dry gloves and climbing up the boat with everything on. And I think they came back a month later and they'd all swapped out to larger clips to make it easier on us.
Well, that's nice that they like took the feedback. So okay, you guys all kind of agreed it's dependent on the person. Why do you think side mount specifically has gotten such I don't want to say a bad rap, but has such a reputation for dive boats as opposed to maybe like back mount doubles or something?
Just kind of what I said before. It's sometimes people didn't have a lot of experience in it before they were boat diving, and they didn't know how to handle or kind of move in it, get ready, configure some of their stuff. Bolt snap size is certainly a concern. I mean, I think I went through one or two dives with dry gloves on just regular like stage bottles or decompression bottles, and I had everything switched over to the 1.5-inch rings on the stage bottles. So, and that kind of, they don't maybe have a protocol for getting back in the boat. Maybe they're going to climb up with all their tanks on, or maybe they're going to hand up bottle by bottle. I think some of that's worth a little bit of thought beforehand, but maybe we don't always have that discussion. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another thing is, especially if they're diving steels with a round bottom and they don't have a boot on it, depending on the boat, stuff tends to slide around, and they're just loose tanks as opposed to being attached to a BCD. And some people can't, I don't want to say can't, but some people aren't used to doing a giant stride with 2 tanks on.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Pat?
No, it was like you said, it comes down to preparation and practice and being comfortable getting into the equipment. I mean, I know like when I started crewing, like one of the reasons I think I got asked to crew was that I can get an equipment very easily and I don't need much help. I think just like the low impact is important.
Yeah. Have you both dove side mount before?
No, I definitely have not myself.
Kyle hasn't yet.
Soon.
One of the things when I started diving side mount, like I didn't dive it much at the beginning, and I just didn't want to take it out anywhere until I was completely comfortable getting set up and felt like I could do it quickly.
Yeah. I feel like that's definitely good with any setup, probably. Now, so I believe this was 2 episodes ago, which seems like a long time since we had a big break in between this episode and the previous one. But basically, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but to tip or not to tip? Dana, what are your thoughts on tipping dive boat staff?
Geez, I never put much thought into it. I don't necessarily expect it, but when people do, it's certainly appreciated. Depending on how your boat is set up, how your costs are, can certainly make a difference for some situations, on your overhead and your margins, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, whatever people are comfortable with, I do my best to help everybody, and I try to earn, kind of like the people's keep, I guess, but it's up to the person, whatever they feel is appropriate, and if at all. Some people think one way and some people think another way. So,
yeah, Pat.
Yeah, like Dana said, it's appreciated but not expected. And I'll just say my perspective on it has changed from when I was a customer down now that I'm crewing on a boat. I definitely wish I had tipped more when I was a customer. Now that I understand what goes into it.
That's fair. Have you guys seen like a lot of different cultures on your boats? Or is it typically just mostly like Americans where you guys are?
I get a pretty solid variety of people. I had some people from Eastern Europe, all over the world, more or less, but the Eastern Europeans stand out. Their culture is a little bit more, I don't know, is it liberal is the way you would, they're very upfront about everything on the dive boat. There's no dress code. I like meeting people. I love to chat with people, and I love to just kind of discover how other people think. And a small boat like a 6-pack, I have a lot of like one-on-one time sometimes with like a specific customer who's particularly, chatty, so to speak. They might stand out of the crowd or the group that is happy to talk about their worldly experiences, and so I like to hear that stuff. It's fun.
Yeah. What about you guys down in Jersey?
We don't really get a ton of variety. I mean, it's pretty specialized, the type of diving we're doing. So you really only get people from the Northeast, occasionally a group from Florida. But even with that, I mean, you get people from all different backgrounds, all different occupations, ages, and like Dana said, it is cool to talk to different people. And you get some that have been diving for a couple of years, some that have been diving for 40 plus. So it's just a variety of people.
Yeah. To tip or not to tip?
Well, I've always tipped crew, and I mean, I know it's not easy. Their day usually starts a lot earlier than ours do. Especially, so a lot of the California boats I've been on, they're kind of some of the liveaboard ones that sometimes they'll do like a long weekend. But for the most part, they don't do a lot of overnights. They just have the capability. So they usually offer, because they leave port at like 7 a.m. So they say, you have to be there at 6 a.m. or you can go the night before after 9 o'clock and sleep on the boat if you want. So they provide that for you. And then, a lot of the boats out there have full galleys and everything. So usually there's like a little continental breakfast in the morning. And then, you do your dives. And like I said, you only have to bring one tank. So they have a compressor on board. They fill your tanks in between dives. I've ate some very, very delicious meals on a boat out there. So they usually feed you a good cooked lunch also. And typically on the way home, you also get dessert. So there's a lot of food. So there's a lot more crew on board. So I take that into consideration also. You know, they have the cook, the dive master, the captain, and usually one or two other crew members also. So, I mean, I've never had a bad experience on any of the charters. I've always felt taken care of. So I show that, you know, give them a little extra.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I will say they're aggressively shaking their tip jar, saying, "Just a reminder, it's over here in the corner."
Dana.
I need to get tipped there.
There you go. We have who I think is John here letting us know that he's a pizza boy diver. I don't know if that means he gets tips so he knows how to tip, or if he's just a pizza guy so he's not tipping a lot, but
I like pizza.
I do like pizza. You can tip me in pizza. I take food. So what is like one thing that you guys really, really like seeing divers do when they get on a boat? Whether it's like just pure etiquette, safety things, like what's something that you love to see when new divers get on your boat, Dana?
I always ask everybody to do a gear check before we leave. Like I always make it a point, make sure you have everything. Maybe not just a function test, but make sure the stuff is all there. I've left when people have said I have everything and then got out there and they don't have fins. So give it a good once over. If I see you looking your gear over and you say, "Hey, I got everything, I'm good to go," that's I like to hear that. I don't need you to tell me that, but it's nice to hear that someone has done their checks and kind of confirmed it with me. And then when we're leaving, nobody's got a second thought in their mind. Or I've spun around a few times, you know.
Nice. What about you, Pat? What's something that warms your heart or makes you feel reassured about going on a dive with these new divers on your boat? Dana?
He has a heart.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just I think like efficiency, loading the boat early, getting your stuff set up, seeing them check the gear, make sure they have everything, make sure everything's working, signing waivers without being asked. It's usually early. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to chase them down to get waivers. And then, if it's someone really new to us, just maybe letting us know that they're new, asking questions, listening to the briefing. The worst thing is it's somebody that comes out for the first time, says they know everything, acts like they know everything, and then just blows off anything that you told them to do.
Fair. Kyle, what's something that you've seen that you really like to see in your dive buddy on a boat, or just something good that you've picked up from other divers on those charters?
I mean, the biggest thing I think is understand the space is limited. We talked about it a little bit with the milk crates, but I've seen that quite a bit. Someone comes on with a Pelican case and they're like, "Hey, where can I?" They set up all their gear in their spot. Like, "Where can I store this?" And they're like, "Back in your car." And not everyone's like, "Well, I don't, I can't do that. Like, I need it here for whatever reason." Understand that it's a shared space, and then understand, there's people around you. Like, one of my pet peeves is there's limited space. We usually have 2 lanes on the boats I've been in California, and like I said, people can get on the night before. And the thing is, people get, it's first come, first serve. They're not assigning spaces, so you pick your spot. It's kind of like movie theater rules. Don't leave one tank in between, like leave 2 for, someone and their buddy so they can sit next to each other. And, if you know that you're going to take 20 minutes to get all your gear on, 1, start early, or 2, don't sit at the very back of the boat where everyone's jumping off. I've seen that a lot where you got, 5, 6 divers ready to go, and this guy in the front's just clipping away, trying to get his gear together. So those are some pet peeves. And like I said, just know your space.
Definitely. So on the flip side, so you kind of just answered that, but Dana, what is like your biggest pet peeve for people on your boat, or like something that you can't stand? It's either not safe, it's annoying, it's anything like that.
I can answer this one. Don't stand in front of him when he's trying to see.
Yeah, the wheelhouse being at the at the stern of the boat makes a difference. People walking around the boat when it's underway, not like just going to find a seat, but hop back and forth from each side of the boat. It's a smaller boat, 28 foot. So it throws it out of trim quite a bit. And then next thing I'll know, people can't hear talking across from one gunnel to the other. Then I get 4 people on one side of the boat. And then maybe there's a couple sets of doubles over there. And I'm way out of trim tab. I can only compensate for so much. So I try to include that in the briefing in the morning. And most people who are boat savvy understand that anyways. But a lot of people that would don't dive on boats that small, or it's not really necessarily a small boat, but it's relatively small for a dive boat, right? And so that kind of thing, this makes handling the boat a little extra work, but not a lot, but it's there.
Yeah.
I think if that's the worst I have to complain about, I'm doing pretty good though.
That's fair. Not a shabby thing to be doing, I guess. What about you, Pat? What's something that like you just can't stand?
I honestly, the customers that charter us are usually pretty good, and I'm pretty easygoing, so there's really not much that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just like not asking questions when you don't know something. If you're unsure what to do, like just ask us. Don't blow it off, or try to make up your own way of doing something.
So it's not everyone getting sick on the boat at once when the seas are rough?
I never notice it. I'm always inside.
Kyle, you have to pick another pet peeve.
I mean, people who don't listen to the dive master, whoever's given the dive brief, especially if it's somewhere new and someone's been there a million times and they're like, talking over them. And I'm like, hey, like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Usually not a problem, because if I don't say it, someone else will tell them to be quiet, or even the dive master will tell them to be quiet. But yeah, follow the rules of the boat,
Yeah, definitely. Like for me, listening to your captain or your dive master, whoever's giving you the dive brief and the information about the boat that you're on, especially if it's your first time. Even if you're like an experienced diver, but you've never been on that boat, it's definitely important to listen to those dive briefs. You'll get a lot of good information about if you're diving wrecks, what wreck you're diving, the conditions, the safety factors that are going into being on that specific boat and stuff like that.
I ignored Dana's briefing the first time I was on his boat and ended up totally lost on the lines to get down to, I think, the America.
Okay.
I've gotten more than one wreck and someone says, where are we?
Yeah.
First wreck of the day, like, yeah, so where are we again? Like,
I think it was for my rec class. We were on the America, and Jason, my instructor, you guys know Jason Meany, let me like go first and lead. And I was like, yeah, I think I kind of know what's happening. And he's there to like point me if I'm going in the wrong direction. But that didn't happen. So I led the entire class in the wrong direction on the America. So that was a good time. It was a good detour for a rec class to not go to a wreck first. What is like one of the most ridiculous things you guys have seen divers do on a boat? Is there anything, or you guys get really chill people?
I don't think I've seen anything that crazy yet. I'm waiting though. Somebody's going to do it sooner or later.
I've lit things on fire on your boat, but that was pretty mild.
I don't recall that. What'd you do?
It's fine. Pat, what about you?
Wait, what was the fire thing?
The first thing I asked Dana, it was a very mild thing, but the question was, I got on the boat and I said, Dana, can I burn things on your boat? He was like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I was just like lighting some of my webbing to get the little frayed ends off, but he was like, you're gonna light things on fire? But what about you, Pat? Anything crazy that people have done?
Nothing super crazy. We get all like this stupid, forgot to zip the dry suit, forgot to jump in with fins on. I didn't have this on a boat, but I had it at work one time where somebody went to get in the water, was all ready to jump, was looking at me like, why aren't you letting me get in? And I said, are you ready? Are you sure? And realized he's just has no regulator on his tank.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and he was ready to
I get to
giant
know
stride.
fins all the time.
Yeah, ready to giant stride, holding his mask like he had a regulator in his mouth and just nothing on his tank.
just that's how I tell students to hold their stuff when I'm explaining it and I don't have my gear on. I just go. So that's essentially half of what he was doing. So
I think he
where
was
do you
even
work?
looking at his pressure gauge, holding in his hand. Just nothing on the tank.
So where else do you work that you have like diving involved?
I work for an aquarium.
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Nice. Crazy things you've seen on a boat.
I was trying to think. I can't think of anything crazy. Just the odd stuff of, like I said, people wanting to store a giant empty pelican case on a boat. I think
Yeah.
that's a little ridiculous, but. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the people are like, yeah, just put it in the bow, I guess. You know, a lot of people store their bags up there, but yeah, I don't know. Nothing crazy.
Yeah. So maybe not stuff that you guys have seen, but like what is one surefire way, Dana, to get kicked off your boat?
Oh boy, that's like the fire question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Changing in the cabin. You could.
I win.
No,
Change.
I don't know. I'm sure that that's happened in Jersey more than anything. I'll let Pat go, and I'll have to think about something there.
Yeah. What's one surefire way to get kicked off the Indy 2?
The only thing I've heard that the captain mentioned was that somebody just like totally blew off the briefing and said they didn't need to hear it. They were, crewed on another boat, didn't need to be bothered. And he kind of said, I don't need that attitude. And said, you can take your stuff and leave. And
Yeah, that's definitely not cool. Kyle, if you had a boat.
I mean, I've never seen anyone kicked off before, but I would say if someone comes late, because I've seen that. Again, the California charters where they say be there at 6 to load, and we're leaving at 7, and someone rolls up at 6:55, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys have any carts so I can bring my gear?" And it's like, no, you're not coming. But that's never happened. They're actually like nice about it, but I mean, you just ruin the day for everyone else. So, I mean, it depends on the place you're at too. But for us, it's an hour out, and we do 3 dives a day, and then an hour back to shore. So it's an all day thing out there. So even just 20, 30 minutes when someone had their day planned around it can make a big difference. So I'm a big fan of punctuality.
Oh, on that blowing off run times.
Yes.
We're big on that. So if we say like, give us your run time and you give us an hour and you come back in 65 minutes, then they're not happy. So yeah, we've kicked people off for overextending run times.
Is it by 5 minutes? Is that beyond the means of tolerance, or is it like usually more than that?
It's usually when someone really messes up, they really mess up. A couple minutes isn't a big deal if we can see you doing deco or whatever. But yeah, someone that blatantly ignores it or is pushing limits, not that we'll throw them off. They just might not be.
You're swimming back.
Yeah.
I'd kind of add that one thing that I usually am reluctant to invite somebody back for is if they get blown off a wreck. I make it very clear, especially during times of the year when the current's ripping, hand over hand on the down line to get to the mooring block or the line to the rack or the wreck. And some people don't do that. And, I'm not likely to take the boat off the mooring with 5 divers in the water, one guy way out there, which you got to weigh that out. So that's probably a don't come back kind of thing. Actually, I have kicked someone off the boat for that. That's why it kind of came to mind. Their whole group got blown off. And
Yeah.
they finished that dive. I picked them up and I took them back and I said, you guys, are done.
Yeah. How often would you say that happens? People getting blown off wrecks up there?
I maybe one time a year, I might have one person who like totally misses the upline, but the mooring line. But this particular incident was they came up a football field behind the boat, and if someone has to get the tag line because the surface conditions are rough, that's one thing. But they totally missed everything. So
Yeah.
that was only ever happened one time like that.
So we have another comment over here. It says, have you ever stopped someone from diving on your boat due to them showing they do not have the skills to safely dive? Dana, what do you think about that? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever considered that, like been close to it?
I've never really been close to that particularly, but I don't know, kind of maybe. It depends on how you look at it. Like most of the wrecks up here are pretty easy dives. I think like Keystorm, you could take an open water student too.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I usually do kind of screen or interview people so I don't get into the situation where I have to do that on the boat during a dive or before a pre-dive on the boat kind of thing. And it's sometimes the first indication is maybe somebody's putting a regulator on backwards or a tank on kind of backwards, which some people may just dive that way. But if I point it out and I start questioning some of their other skills, if it's hey, I forgot, only got 12 dives kind of thing, I point it out and I make sure there was somebody who's experienced. But I've never actually had to stop anybody who hasn't had the skills to complete a dive on the boat. I wouldn't say hasn't had the skills, but wasn't certified for those wrecks, was in a class. And I usually let the instructor handle most of that unless I do see something that's just like prohibitive, like there's no way these guys can do this dive,
Yeah. What about you, Pat? Have you ever seen anything like that down in New Jersey?
I can't say we've ever stopped anyone from doing a dive. There's been probably like equipment situation there with rebreathers where we'll say, hey, you really shouldn't use this way, or probably best you don't dive. I mean, obviously you've met Dan. He's really good at vetting people and making sure that they understand what they're getting into. And he usually, by the time you get to the wreck site, knows everybody's dive plan. So if there's anything we're concerned about, we'll partner them with a crew member or make sure that he's already talked to them and say, hey, don't do this, or keep your run time to this, or don't go deeper. So it's just trying to control it before it hits that point.
I think rebreather is one of those things that I have the most instances where somebody wants to dive with a faulty piece of equipment on rebreather. They'll get to the Jottery's not a very far run, but they'll get out there and maybe they haven't done a calibration yet, and then they have one dead cell. I'm like, and it's kind of like talking someone off a ledge. They want to dive. I'm like, you really can't. I really can't let you, or I shouldn't let you. I have to kind of mediate that back down to like, it's only a charter fee. It's not worth doing something like that. And that's happened a couple of times, believe it or not.
Well, and Dana, for those of us who don't know, can you describe the dive on the Jodry, the depth and stuff?
Yeah, it's deceivingly simple to find the wreck. And because of that, someone who is inexperienced could find themselves in a position where they have a lot of obligation. I've oftentimes said it's probably an easier wreck to dive than some other dives in the river, but it starts at about 140 feet and it goes well past 200 feet. And once you get out on the wreck a little bit, there's a lot of current. I've been out to the stern with Jason, and the current was pretty swift out there. You don't want to be caught out there without a real plan.
And people are just like, no, I'm good, right?
I've never had anybody really goof that one up.
Yeah.
I've had some dry suits flood out there before, but
why don't you stop me from diving?
I don't know. You said you did the repair.
Kyle, have you ever seen anything like this happen?
No, I don't think I've ever seen people that are like super like unsafe, but I've definitely heard, people like chit chatting, the people who are ignoring the dive brief and, having their own conversation and saying, oh, well, don't listen to him. We'll go over here and do this, that, and the other. Usually I just kind of go with my buddy and I'm like, hey, let's stay away from them. That, or if you see someone I've seen people with gear that's older than I am. And I'm like, that's nice. I ask them, I say, what is that? And if they say, oh yeah, it's this, I serviced it this week or, whatever, but usually I've been diving this for 20 years. It's never failed, never had to repair it. And I'm like, well,
How old are you, Kyle?
35.
Oh, my bailout regulator is older than you and me.
That's fair.
How old are you, Dana?
I'm 35.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So that was a really good question, though. Definitely interesting. You guys have anything else to add? Anything that, like, if there's one thing these divers should know about getting on my boat, what's this?
I think boat diving should be treated more as a skill than just a means of getting to a wreck. There's a lot of little things that are involved in just getting your gear boat ready. You know, can you consolidate and carry the right spares, or do you have spares at all with you? Because my boat rides are very short, especially compared to anything Pat dives, but still makes for a ruined dive if you don't have the spares, and we're 25 30 minutes away from the dock. I have a second wreck for the day to dive, or a second trip. So I think boat diving really needs to be a skill more than just look at it as a means. And I think with that, people would be a little more prepared if they haven't been on a boat before, to understand, I should say.
Yeah. What about you, Pat?
I think just respecting the different environments and, knowing the type of boat that you're doing, what their procedures are. Like we get a lot of people that think Jersey diving is hard and they don't want to do it. And, they come down and they kind of blow it off just because they don't listen to how to do it right. We do things a lot different than Dana does. And, if I were to go up on Dana's boat, I would treat it with respect of, like, I don't do this every weekend like I do down here. And probably listen to which line to go on the America and which way to go. And, so just, checking your ego and ask questions you need to, and just, listen to the people that have done it.
Definitely. I think that's definitely, like, good advice. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, if you're not sure, ask the crew. I mean, I did that on Dana's boat. I had my milk crate and I brought it over and I said, hey, can I store this on the boat, or do you prefer me to set up everything on my gear and take it off? And, he told me it was fine. We'll make room. And looking at what everyone else had, and just ask, really. It's their boat. It's their property. They're allowing you on it. You should respect that.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I wish I could go diving.
Yeah, me too. Cool. So just for you guys listening, Dana has dive charters throughout the summer up in the St. Lawrence through Hunt's Dive Shop. We've got some charters set up that you can check out at deepstopscuba.com. And Pat on the ND2 has probably booked this summer. What are you guys looking like?
Yeah, most of the stuff's booked, but I think people book so far in advance that there's always spots opening up. So you just got to watch Facebook and see what opens.
Yeah. And it's definitely a lot of fun to go down for the weekend. I did it once. I want to do it again, like, as soon as possible. So definitely great times. Anything else?
No.
Cool. So I'm going to put you guys in the waiting room, and I will be right back with you guys while I say goodbye to our listeners, okay? Bye. Thank you guys so much. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know it's been a long time since our last drama diving. We're definitely hoping to keep it going. We'll probably have another episode next month. So mark your calendars. We'll have a fun new hot topic to talk about. And again, thank you for tuning in. Happy diving.